here again, Charlene, a member of the Musselman Lake Residents Association Executive, and we're talking with Mr. Alec Cloak and Julia Risi of the SCS Consulting Groups, and we're talking about the rehabilitation of the gravel pit on 9th Line. Now, Mr. Cloak, you were making a comment recently about the different levels of government who are involved. Would you care to speak further about that?
Okay. The property as it's been used since 1952 has been under the Aggregate Resources Act. It's a provincial mandated set of rules and entity that the gravel operation has been working under. As that winds down, as the gravel operation on that property winds down, the property has to be left in a certain physical set of circumstances. It has to be safe, so the edges of the property, the adjoining edges to other neighboring properties, have to be at a 3-to-1 slope. For kids and anybody else that wanders on the site by mistake, they don't fall over a steep hill or a cliff.
Right.
So there's rules to that effect. The outside, as far as what the public sees as far as neatness, it has to be left in a certain way. There's got to be some berms built and things like that. But that is to finish what the townspeople have historically seen as a sand and gravel operation. The people that own that 134 acres, the Lee family, want to rebuild that farm to its original state.
Wonderful.
Same elevations, wood lots, which I've mentioned before. And that's where my company comes into play. But you don't get to do that because you're replacing the granulars that came out of that location with dirt that is coming from different projects in Southern Ontario, the city, things like that. So there's a set of rules. There's a set of rules and there's a protocol that you have to follow. And the town of Whitchurch-Stouffville are the people that we're doing our work together with, our engineering work together with, to protect the interests of the public. We're in the Oak Ridges Moraine, for one thing. So there's only certain kinds of dirt that are going to go back onto that property.
Right.
There's a certain amount of time that we're going to take to do that. You have truck traffic. You have other things that you have to be careful of for the protection of the public. And that's why I've hired Julia's company, SCS, to coordinate all that. We've gone through a certain number of things that we've had to investigate and answer, some studies that we've had to do.
Right.
And Julia can talk to that about what we've had to do to satisfy the questions that are coming from the town.
With this project, obviously the pit is running under a current provincial license, and what we're working on specifically is a segue into a town permit. And for that town permit, we've been working with the town of Whitchurch-Stouffville, and as well with the region of York being, a larger component of it as well. We've prepared a site alteration plan, and what that plan is essentially the ultimate layout of the land, the grading of the land. And in preparing that, what we've done is taken the topographic survey that was done in 1951. It was an Army survey that was done. So we've got the exact contours that were measured.
Wow.
So we can take that and we've essentially applied and matched those elevations in our grading design. So we would be restoring the land in terms of the elevations to what was there before. We've prepared that. Along with that, we've done a mud and dust control program and a risk management plan. We've also worked with other consultants or coordinated the other consultants that are more specialty in these fields.
Would you describe some of them in general terms for us so we know? Because I was just knocked out by the kinds of incredible consultants you have and the number of consultants.
The other consultants involved have prepared a archaeological study, a tree study, or a tree review and assessment, geotechnical sort of soil study of what is there, and hydrogeological. So that's sort of a soil water study. So we know what we're at, where we're at, and where we're going.
Right.
And also traffic study to assess the traffic coming and going within the site, but especially along 9th Line and Bloomington and local roads.
Terrific. That is a lot of people, a lot of involvement. So you go from one piece of information and then you have to get all the, I think they're called stakeholders and all the components, everyone who's involved in on and then responding to. So is this a long process, would you say, or what is the duration of this process? Generally,
I mean, it could be very short, but with this, you know, we're taking the time to do it right, and obviously working with the municipality, and we want to make sure that we are providing all the information we need to satisfy, obviously, the municipality, the region, and just to carry on the transition of the pit rehabilitation from the licensing under the province to the municipality.
So let me see if I've got this straight. The province is dictating, right, as province is supposed to, for the protection of all the people involved in the community, that all the grading has to be to a 3-to-1 level with a 30-degree angle or whatever, and that would be satisfactory. But the Lee family want the project to reflect the original farm with all the original, close to the original as possible, including woodlands, including swales, including all of that. And that what your company is doing, SCS Consulting Groups are doing, is providing the information
to support that.
What vision of the Lee family.
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening.
That is great news. That is.
I want you to understand that the town of Whitchurch-Stouffville, the engineering department of the town of Whitchurch-Stouffville, is responsible for the community.
Yes.
I mean, they're the public representative.
They are.
So they've gone through the steps and the procedures and asked us of all the questions and all the topics that we need to protect the interest of the public. And when you're asking how long this took, this will be very, very close to a year and well over $250,000 worth of studies being done. So you understand what we're going through. But we're establishing something that's going to be there for years.
Yes.
You're going to do it right in the first place. And that's what the town's doing. And the town has been great to work with. They understand what the Lee family wants, and as long as it fits in with the public's best interest, and that's fine by them, as long as we go through the steps of protecting the environment, protecting the public's interest. So
this is a really wonderful, wonderful, as Rick Wigmore is fond of saying, a win-win-win situation here. But I would like you, Mr. Cloak, if you wouldn't mind, to go back and talk with us a little bit more about soil coming in and the testing that's required on those trucks, the contents of those trucks, as well as the soil that's actually in the site.
okay. What has come out, and I refer to the site looking like a shoebox, and that's basically the general shape it is. It's longer than it is wide. And it's 134 acres. The gravel has been taken out of it. Now we're going to replace it with soil that's compatible with the area that we're working in, which is the Oak Ridges Moraine. There's various types of soil that you're allowed to put back there. Under the provincial legislation, which we're working with now, we're allowed to replace the dirt, the granular that's been taken out, with what is known as Table 1 material. Table 1 material is native material. It is the highest quality of dirt.
Yes.
As far as the various chemicals that are within dirt. They're at a level that is, you can almost eat it. We'll say it that way. Okay?
I
That's
get
what
this.
it is.
This is wonderful news.
It's dirt.
It's clean.
But it's clean.
Totally clean.
We use these generic terms, and you hear about it, the clean fill and blah, blah. Well, the clean fill is just, it's a generic term.
Right.
There's lots of controls, and there's lots of gradients and levels of quality of material. Under the provincial statute right now, we are obligated to use what is known as Table 1. And out of, let's say, 120 chemicals that are tested for in dirt, that are inherent in all dirt, the Table 1 is the highest quality. Table 2 is what we're going to be allowed to put in there, Table 1 and Table 2, when we start working with the town. Not that the difference is very much. Let's say either any one of these chemicals can be 3 or 4 parts per million.
Okay.
Per million.
That's at level 1?
Let's say for level 1.
Right.
For level 2, it may be 12 parts per million. That's how detailed the Ministry of the Environment measures the gradient of dirt.
Right.
That is the next step to table 2 is the only thing that's going to be allowed to go in there, and rightfully so, because we are on the Oak Ridges Moraine and we have to protect water quality. And
So what you're saying is that there'll be no level 3, there'll be
no,
nothing
there won't
of
be
anything.
industrial materials, there won't be anything with hydrocarbons, which is the cleanup of gas stations and things
Right,
like that.
right.
None of that. It's going to be natural materials. And to get to that point and to control what comes in, you have to have a certain set of rules, which is a protocol. How do I know that after someone tells me that I'm going to bring you 1,000 loads of table 1 material, how do I protect myself,
Yes,
the Lee family,
Yes.
and the town of Witchard-Stouffville, that what that gentleman tells me is actually what happens?
exactly.
So there are controls,
Mm-hmm.
testing, actual physically investigating, testing the material after it's landed on our site to confirm, which we have to do. We do confirmation sampling about every 2 or 3 days on the site to confirm that what has been told to us by our clients and what has happened is true.
Excellent.
Okay, we have to do that.
Yes,
The town of Witchard-Stouffville wants us to do that. It's what should happen anyway.
yes.
In this application process, we're setting up a set of rules and a set of controls together with the town of Witchard-Stouffville. And Julia's company is making sure that it happens. That's what we're doing.
That is a very detailed process to make sure that the land is restored not only topographically, if that's the right word for the design element, but the actual quality of the land is maintained in as pristine as we possibly can. Now, if I can, may I ask you then, either one of you, perhaps Julia, you can jump in and we can have a free fall here about water. My understanding, limited as it is, tells me that the water is the first vulnerable resource that shows any potential problem or contamination.
With the water, we've coordinated to have wells put in,
Yes.
7 throughout the property.
7.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
And those are there to set a baseline to know what's there now.
Right.
Test it against other standards, but also to set the baseline for what's there and monitor as the fill progresses.
This sounds very, very complete. And how often do you monitor the wells? Is that on a weekly or monthly basis?
No, it's on it's measured, it's done based on how much material that we've brought into the site.
Aha.
And it's ongoing. You gotta understand, the wells were drilled
Right.
from on the outside elevations of this property. So these wells are 150 feet deep, and they're going down into the water table.
Yes.
And as we progress and as the material comes in, there's going to be a set of, like Julie just said, a baseline water quality, and we're going to watch that that water quality is maintained. I want everybody that's watching this to understand that there is no exposed water table on this property.
Right.
The bottom of the existing gravel pit is
Right.
above the water table.
Right.
There is no exposed, like some other properties in town, the water table is actually showing.
Or
So
for
there is
example,
exposure to
Right.
being contaminated. Our water table is below the bottom surface of the thing. Can still be influenced by bringing poor material in here.
Sure.
For sure.
By leaching, which why we aren't doing that, why you can't do that.
Right.
But we do not have exposed water on
Right.
the site.
So that's a very different site than, for example, the Elora Gorge, which starts with it was a quarry and it had a huge water exposure and
Yeah.
is now a swimming pool and of course taken over by a conservation authority, and it looks very beautiful. You go to look at it. So this is a different site with a different kind of question and different kinds of situations that have to be addressed according to what you're working with. So for you to have to go down, that's another expense on your company to pay for all these extensive wells to go right down below the 150 feet exposures and keep the water samples going so that when the soils come in, indeed, this is another way of making sure that there is no contamination and that the soils maintain at level 1 table or level 2 table. That is wonderful news to have for the rest of us in the community.
Well, that's just taking care of the public's best interests. You have to have those rules, or this, it'll be a mess.
And there have been messes, as we know.
There's been
from
messes
the
all
past.
over the GTA and all over the Southern Ontario. It's horrible, and the province is trying to control that.
Right.
And we're going to follow the rules.
Following the rules and also making sure, it sounds to me as though you are not just following the rule to the lowest extent, but to the highest extent of the law. And for that, I want to extend the thanks from myself, and I know I speak on behalf of many of the residents. And I know we'll be speaking again together very soon. So thank you for this afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening and watching.